welcome to everyone who has been able to join us today for this workforce and unemployment roundtable discussion with Assemblywoman Megan Dahle. We'd like to welcome our Assemblywoman Megan, who is with us today. Thank you so much for joining us, Assemblywoman Dahle.
Good morning. Good to see all of you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I want to also welcome Alice Bennett, her local representative. Alice, good morning.
Good morning. It is wonderful to be here, and I'm really interested in hearing everybody's stories, challenges, successes, hopefully some successes.
Yep. Likewise, I guess I should say I'm Jake Mangus, President and CEO of the Reading Chamber of Commerce. I also want to let you know that also attending today, some subject matter experts, if you will, Heidi Corrigan, CEO of O2 Employment Services, and Michelle Nystrom, the Regional Director of O2 Employment Services. Those two have been out there on the leading edge of workforce and unemployment challenges and opportunities through this entire pandemic and previously to that as well. So welcome to both of you as well.
Hey, sorry, I didn't know you wanted me to talk.
I just thought that pregnant pause would kind of like bring that out.
Oh, wait, I'm muted. Hi. Thank you, Jake.
Yep, appreciate that. And I will say that Assemblywoman Dahle has been right alongside, very close to the Reading Chamber of Commerce and our local business community, certainly throughout the district, but we particularly feel the attention and that you have open ears to what the greatest challenges might be from one moment to the next in the business community in Reading, and we greatly appreciate that. I know that last year around this time, I believe I was on with you on Zoom, and we did an interview about what's going on in Reading and what resources exist for businesses, and we were able to, as a chamber, distribute $4 million of CARES Act funds to local businesses within Shasta County. And there was a special emphasis on unincorporated Shasta County businesses. In total, we were able to distribute 473 grants to those businesses most in need in the county. So that was great. And we're at the table again for this ARPA stimulus round, hoping to do some of the same on the short term and also on the long term. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to really today's moderator and host, which would be Erin Hull. She is the VP of Marketing and Communications with the Reading Chamber of Commerce, and my trusted right-hand woman, Erin.
Thank you, Jake. We really appreciate you guys spending the time with us today. And I see we have Eric Brahms also with us, your Chief of Staff, and I think Yolanda may be staff as well. So thanks for taking the time. You're so accessible, and we really appreciate it. I remember last year, as Jake was saying, we got together in July. So just about a year later, here we are, and we're kind of right in the middle of what we hope is the aftermath of this pandemic. So I just want to start by going around and having some brief introductions so that we can all kind of know who's here and get to know each other just a little bit. So if we can just start with, I'll go ahead and call out a name, and then if you can just share your name, your business, your role, and your industry, that would be fantastic. So I'm going to start with Mimi.
I wasn't expecting to be first. Yeah, Mimi Mosley Family Cellars. Our industry is manufacturing and retail sales, and we're here in Reading. Thank you.
Thanks. Next, how about Maureen?
Good morning. Maureen Gaynor from Gaynor Telesystems. Our corporate office is in Reading. I'm a low voltage contractor. So we do phones, school clocks and bell systems, video surveillance, pretty much throughout California, but I try and stick to Northern California.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank you. Danny, would you give us a brief introduction?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Danny Orloff, the new Tourism Marketing Director for Visit Reading here in Reading.
Thank you.
No problem.
How about Kathy?
Hi there, I'm Kathy Garcia. I'm actually from Tehama County. I am in workforce development with the Job Training Center through Nortec, 11 County Consortium. Also work closely with Kate Grissom here in Tehama County.
Great, thank you. Welcome. Andrew.
Hello. This is Andrew Wodarsick with Woody's Brewing Company, and I am president of Woody's Brewing Company. I'm also here with Scott, my father. He's trying to stay out of the picture though, but he is here listening.
We saw him lurking around in the background there. So hi, Scott. Sam, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
You can, yes.
Sam Heyer. I'm the general manager of Southern Aluminum Finishing here in Redding, California. We're a metal fabricator and distributor with about 80 employees here in Redding. We have other locations in Texas, Indiana, and Georgia as well. And I'm curious to see what we're going to find out this morning.
Thank you for being with us, Sam. Appreciate it. Heidi.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heidi Corrigan. I'm the CEO at O2 Employment Services, and we're in the employment industry.
Perfect. Eric, are you listening? Would you like to say hi?
I am. Good morning. Eric Brahms. I'm from Redding. I am Assemblywoman Megan Dahle's Chief of Staff, and appreciate you, Aaron and Jake, putting this together this morning. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us, Eric. Yolanda.
Good morning, everyone. Yolanda Cookson. I am another field rep for Assemblywoman Megan Dahle, more for the southern portion of the district, but I love to see what Redding is doing, so I'm kind of just checking y'all out.
Awesome. Welcome. Jennifer. Jennifer, can you hear me? Okay, we'll come back to Jennifer. And then I have a 604-6004 phone number. Okay, so unidentified caller there. And then we have someone else logging on. So we won't put him on the spot as soon as he logs on, and we'll just go ahead and move forward. So we wanted to start with unemployment and the Employment Development Department. When the pandemic first hit, lots of unemployment claims, that system was kind of overloaded. So we just wanted to hear from your office, Megan. What did you discover going into that season, and how did you guys respond to the flood of claims that came in?
So when the world shut down, I had not been elected for very long, and we were building our team. So Yolanda and Alice had just joined my team, and really the job of a field rep would be to be spending time with you, to be going to functions, passing out certificate, being my face on the ground when I couldn't be, and taking care of casework. But over the last year, probably longer, they have been full-time dealing with EDD claims. That has become basically the job of our office, which, looking back, whether it was our role or not, we were here to help our constituents and to get through it. So Alice can chime in as far as like the numbers specifically to Shasta County, but not until months and months into the pandemic did we receive a EDD liaison specifically to our office. So just to kind of give everyone an overview, I represent 9 counties, 7 full counties, 2 partial counties, 470,000 constituents, and we have a staff of 5 people. So just to kind of put into perspective what we've been covering and trying to manage. So if you take Alice and Yolanda completely out of the equation and they're doing straight EDD for over a year, 8 hours a day, that's where we've been. So I'll have Alice chime in a little bit on just kind of an overview on specific numbers to Shasta County. I think that would be, interesting to all of you to know, the magnitude of claims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 17 months, but who's counting? It's been a long time helping constituents for reach EDD because they have been unreachable. And so we have become the interface to help folks who were having trouble getting their unemployment benefits, or getting things straightened out. We've been the interface between EDD and them. Over the course of time, it has become somewhat better because we got the EDD liaison, so we have somebody that we can speak to once a week on these cases. But your peak of initial unemployment claims came March 28th, and I have the numbers here somewhere. I think March 28th, there were over 4,000 unemployment claims that were made, initial unemployment claims made in Shasta County. And then the following week, there were over, what do we have? 3,400. So in March of 2020, there were 5,800 claims that were made. April of 2020, there were 8,600 claims that were created just in Shasta County. And it has become less as time has come on. The initial claims were mostly in the realm of hospitality and food services. And that's pretty much been the same throughout time. I don't know how many people, I reached out to EDD, but they weren't able to pull the data. So what I can see, if you go on the EDD dashboard right now, you guys could look and you can see the initial claims week by week throughout this pandemic. And you can also see in what industries they are. What we don't know is how many of those initial claimants are still on unemployment. I can't see those numbers. We just see the initial claims created. But it has been an extremely challenging year, helping people, and then, just seeing the impacts on the businesses in our area. So I'm anxious to see and listen to your stories and see what you're doing and how things are working for you. So
thank you for that. And I would love to kind of hear from the business side of things and the staffing side of things as well. Michelle, you can chime in here if you like, or anyone else. We have a small enough group that people can just chime in if you have something to add. But what has that been like for you, and what are you seeing now, Michelle?
So obviously unemployment was awful when the pandemic first hit. I think every business was highly impacted by it. And understandably so. I think that it was uncontrollable chaos that all of us were, somewhat sympathetic towards on the state level. And as time has gone on, now I think it's become more frustrating for employers because rather than being a program to help, it's now kind of seen as a program to incentivize people to not work. So those of us that are having trouble, and by those of us, I mean everyone nationwide. I don't know anyone that has said, like, I'm fully staffed and I have a wait list of people that want to work for me. So that's presented a huge challenge. I serve on the Small Business Employer Advisory Council, which reports to or oversees part of EDD and both on the unemployment and the tax side. So that's been super interesting during the pandemic to hear kind of their feedback and to have the heads of EDD report back to us on what they're experiencing. And so I think that kind of gives a perspective of, as frustrated as we are with the unemployment process, those that aren't necessarily making the decisions, but are trying to do the work for unemployment are equally frustrated and struggling just as much. And so I won't get into the part on whether we'll see the turnaround until you ask that question, Erin. But there have been some improvements, and I think that having people like Megan that work towards this and listen to us and help us as employers to kind of push those things. We have had some small wins, and some small in government is huge. So excited about that and what that may lead to down the road.
Yeah. So you actually worked together with Megan to draft a bill when you kind of discovered from your perspective that And I think this is oftentimes the case when it comes to government. There's just that one extra step that would make things so much better, right? So you discovered that employers had no way to check to see, on claims for their own employees. So there was fraud happening, and you guys were kind of able to identify that and actually draft a bill, I believe AB 980, to address that problem and see if there was a way to just get an employer tab added to those EDD pages. So last I heard, that bill is kind of stuck. Do you guys have any more insight there?
It's on suspense and appropriations, so it will remain there for the rest of the session, and then we can reintroduce it in January. So they have made some improvements to the EDD. There's been lots of legislation introduced. Obviously, it was something that was an issue statewide. Every assembly member, senator have, I think we've, in our office, 3,000 claims. For the senator, for Brian's office, 4,000 claims that we have helped navigate. So, that times, 120 members. So there's definitely been legislation brought forward to streamline the EDD process. And obviously the fraud, as we've all seen it in the news, is just beyond measure. And we will just absorb that through our budget, which is mind-blowing to me. But there is still some investigations happening, but we'll see how that all pans out. But yes, Michelle was very instrumental in just asking those questions. She worked closely with Tess, my legislative director, to draft that legislation. And I'd like to mention that all of our bills have come from the district, been ideas that have come from our constituents, from business owners. Dr. Dugan in Reading, one of the sexual assault exam money that we were able to get in the budget came from Dr. Dugan, and coordinating with him. So that's something that I'm proud of, that we've worked really closely with our district to come up with our legislation for our ideas for our bills.
Yeah, you bring up a really important point, and part of my reason for bringing this up is that one thing that we've been hearing from employers as well is they added the requirement that you have to people seeking, they have to show they're looking for work, right? So you have to show that you've applied for a job. And so what I'm hearing now is they apply and they schedule an interview and then they don't show up for the interview. Is anyone seeing that? I'm sure Woody's, you guys probably have seen that, where people schedule an interview and then they don't show up.
Yeah, that's a very common, I would say almost that's something that's happening every few days, if not weekly. Essentially it's just a very frustrating thing. It's these individuals that look qualified for the position and will make that call. They sound interested, and promising. Then out of nowhere, they don't show up. And I would say this has happened in the last few months, probably 15 to 20 times or so.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And so, what if we could draft a bill that adds that requirement? The employer then reports back and indicates if they showed up for that interview or not. Go ahead, Michelle.
I'll just speak to that because I think that that's something that's being seen all over all employers. I know that we, as a staffing agency, we see it all the time. However, we did have a win in this area with the EDD, and it's something that, we've been pushing for from O2 for over 10 years, and it finally happened this year. And that is that there is now a portal on the EDD website where you can report when someone declines work. And you don't necessarily they don't have to have been a previous employee of yours. They don't have to be on your unemployment. And so if you have someone, granted, this takes time out of our days, and I know that we all have just ample amounts of that to give. However, you can go onto their website and you can report if someone has applied for work, declined work, not shown up for an interview, not responded when they applied, or if it was a previous employee that was laid off to the pandemic and then refused to come back. So all of those things are reportable now. Where it goes from there, they're supposed to cross-reference and check and that type of thing. And then they're supposed to follow up with those employees to see if they should actually remain on unemployment. I'll let Megan chime in on whether she thinks that's actually happening, but it's a baby step, and it does give us a way to at least let them know if when people aren't showing up or are declining work.
Michelle, if you happen to have that that link handy, just handy right now. If not, we can send it out later. But
how long is the Zoom? How long do I have to find it?
So I have a couple of questions I just would like people to be thinking about and would like to hear some feedback on. If you could sort of ballpark what percentage of applicants are not actually showing up for the interviews, that would be good to know. And then have any of you use that system to report that you don't, that your applicants have not shown up. I just am curious to see how many have actually done that. And then, yes, they would put them on a list to do an eligibility interview over the phone. Those eligibility interviews are taking about between 17 and 20 weeks to be scheduled. So something else to be thinking about.
So it looks like about 50%. We've got Maureen and Andrew saying about 50%, not showing up. So I would love if we could give, our business people an email address or a way to kind of contact someone on your staff, and maybe moving forward, maybe there's more that we can do to, create a little bit more accountability in this area. So real quickly, we have heard that federal unemployment benefits could be ending soon. What are you guys hearing? And, I'm sure there's nothing definite that you can share, but from your perspective, what do you anticipate seeing?
On a federal level, we don't have any definitive. Right. We'll see. I know they've called Congress back, and they're, talking about another package coming through. Alice and I started, we travel back and forth. We come home every weekend from Sacramento. So I stop at Safeway and Bernie to do my grocery shopping, or everywhere we stop, there is, looking for work, right? Please, now hiring. And so Alice and I started taking photos of everywhere every restaurant, everywhere throughout the district. And so we know there's work. I mean, we are business owners ourselves. We have positions. We could expand our business if we had people willing to work. I know SPI, I see their signs at the mill in Bernie, signing bonuses, stop in, their traffic. They have traffic, big orange traffic signs now flashing as you're driving by. $35 an hour for truck drivers, signing bonuses, come in, stop in, talk to us. So we know there's work out there. So I hope and pray that we do not continue the employment benefits, because we really need to get back to work. And it's hurting all of us, honestly, that we aren't filling these positions. We have families that, we need our schools to be open so that people can go back to work, because we've lost 30% of our daycare statewide, right? During the pandemic. So there's not, and housing, Yolanda faces that in Nevada County. All of us have housing, it's huge housing issues, but specifically in our rural areas as well. And now with whole towns are burning down, and we have to evacuate somewhere else, and there's going to be another impact to our housing market. So I'm hoping they are not going to extend that, because I know Michelle, we talked quite a bit. At one point, I think they had 200 positions available. I don't know what the number is now, but we don't have any definitive answer. I know Alice and Yolanda are hoping that we can move on from doing EDD and do the work of the district that we were all elected to do and hired to do.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Michelle, for just putting that link in the chat. So there's that link to report employees that turn down, or potential employees that turn down work, and so on. So thanks for that, Michelle. So you kind of touched on some of the reasons for the shortages. Childcare is huge. We know childcare is huge. We know unemployment is huge. What else are you hearing? Just anyone that's contributing to this shortage? I know we've named a few. Any others that we're not necessarily talking about?
I would be interested if everyone could chime in and tell me how many positions are available in your industry right now that you could fill a position.
Well, like this is Sam with SAF. So like I said, we have about 80 employees right now. I could hire 8 more on the spot right now if I found them.
Sam, what do you feel like your barriers are right now? Is it people with, are you looking for specific skills and qualifications, education levels? You know, what is it that you're looking for?
There might be a position or two where that might be the hurdle, the qualifications, the skills, the background, the experience. But for the most part, it really is just a lot of labor positions, entry level, and it's incredibly difficult to find those folks. Just someone who will, you know, A, show up for the interview, B, be able to pass a drug test, and then C, actually show up. I mean, we've hired people and they're here for 2 days and then they're gone again. So it's just tough.
So drug testing is part of your criteria?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If I could chime in real quick too. Until, you know, currently we have about 2 positions that we're looking to fill. About 2.5, 3 weeks ago, we were around 6 to 7 positions that we needed to fill. We ended up kind of lowering our standards. We took some individuals that actually worked for us in the past, just some other labor intensive positions, and they just wanted to work, which was great, you know, but it was moving them into positions that they don't have any experience in. So we're spending a lot of extra labor hours to train them. It's great to have somebody that wants to work, but obviously the cost to train somebody to do something they've never done before is, you know, is expensive. So, so at the moment we don't have a whole lot, but like the gentleman before me was saying, that a lot of these individuals that may have the experience, they're gone pretty quick. I mean, even when we do get some staff in here that's had experience, the stress of the restaurant industry right now, and the stress is multifaceted. It's coming from all different places, you know, from other staff that are picking up the slack. It's rubbing off, you know, onto each other, and we're already short staffed. So then even when those new people do come on, they just can't handle the stress. And this summer was a busy summer. You know, we were picked up back kind of similar numbers to where we were maybe the previous years before COVID. And so there was that expectation there from the guest. I mean, as much as people know what's happening right now and the shortage that the restaurant industry is experiencing, I think they understood for a while, but at this point, a lot of them, they don't care, you know, and so the stress of that, the customers just on edge and not really having any empathy for what's going on behind the scenes, it's really hard to navigate on what to do here. I would just say, you know, that in this industry, everybody's overworked right now and severely stressed. So not to be pity us, you know, but it's definitely hit our industry, I would say, one of the hardest. So
it absolutely has.
Say that there definitely is a lack of empathy and kindness, that it seems to be rampant right now. Just another question for how many of you are doing bonuses, hiring bonuses or that type of thing?
Yeah, we currently have hiring bonuses. We also, just to retain the staff that we had through summer, because summer was such a busy time for us, we offered all of our back of house staff, so dishwashers, cooks, prep cooks, we offered them all bonuses anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 for literally just 2.5 months to stick around. And even with that, we lost 4 of them in the last 2.5 months. So it helped, but a lot of them said, the stress isn't worth it. Everybody's so stressed out right now. The money's not worth it.
Yeah, I think I'll chime in on what Andrew said real quick. I think that that's something that we're seeing across all industries, all salary ranges, all positions, that kind of chaos fatigue, which is somewhat COVID related, fire related, riot related, war related. I mean, everything going on in the world, to where people are just tired, scared, anxious, feelings that are kind of overwhelming for people. But on top of that, you have employers in a tough position where entry level is no longer entry level. So whether or not the extended unemployment stops on September 30th, every employer knows it is very easy to give employees a pay increase. It is very hard to decrease their wages and keep them motivated. So whether you were paying those wages or not, whether it was coming from the federal government, the state government, they are now used to a higher income level. And so, we're doing salary analysis all the time. And the new minimum wage in Northern California is now about $17, $18 an hour, because you cannot get someone to repeatedly show up day in and day out and be on time for less than that. And that puts a huge crunch on employers, because it's not like we can just raise all of our prices. Andrew can't, increase the price of a beer up to $20 because he now has to pay a server $18 an hour plus their tips. So I don't necessarily see that going away as soon as the unemployment benefits go away, because that is the new norm, and the job market in terms of supply and demand is in the employee's favor. And if you're not willing to pay it, someone else will. So that'll be an interesting hurdle for employers to try to get through, to figure out where they're going to come up with the funding to keep their doors open and keep their profit margins where they need them to be to make it worthwhile to even own their business. On that happy note.
I was going to chime in on that and what Andrew was saying. I didn't do bonuses, but I definitely had to do raises across the board and just try and find a way to absorb that of what we're going to do to keep staff. My technical staff has been with me, a long time. I think the shortest one is like at 12 years or something, and they're highly compensated, especially when we do prevailing wage jobs, but they're very hard to find. And to answer your question, I could use a couple more. It limits my growth ability because I only have so much throughput with my field staff. And then we go to the clerical and the admin team. And I said 50%, and I think that was a little low from when my staff was trying to hire. We had somebody retire that just does accounts payable. To me, that's really simple, usually easy to fill, decent paying job. People, they wouldn't even show up for the interview, completely unqualified people. The skill level is atrocious. Thanks to O2, we have somebody out there. Completely inexperienced, sucking so much training time, really slow, not picking it up, being, in my opinion, grossly overpaid for the quality of what I'm getting. And I would guess that that's completely across the board for many employers. What are we going to do? Like you said, that it's not going to go down. So prices are going up. Frankly, mine are going up.
Yeah, thank you, Maureen. And we're hearing the same. And so it kind of brings me to my next thought, and that is that the workers that have not received a raise and are kind of ready to get out into the world and maybe don't have so much of this fatigue that we're all experiencing is really the younger workforce. So I'm trying to brainstorm around how can we tug on a little bit younger workforce that maybe is needs training, but is brand new to, to the workforce, just getting started in life. And so Megan was sharing with me, just some anecdotal experience from employers that have been hiring some high schoolers, and how, it's great that they are excited, they're great workers, they're ready to work. And then of course you have the challenges with, going back to school and all of that. So I want to kind of talk about two things. How can we kind of tug on maybe the student population at Shasta College or Simpson University, or some of the high schools even, or, the ministry school, and see if we can't create a little bit more of a funnel to our businesses, and maybe even provide some training along the way. But first, Michelle, can you talk a little bit about employment law when it comes to high school students? I would like to understand that a little better just for myself. And then I just want to brainstorm together and think about what we might be able to do.
Sure. So I'm not going to get into like super specifics on this because that's above my pay grade, and that's really a Jennifer Thomas question. I don't know if she's listening. So I get to talk, and she does the real work and actually knows these things. However, super important that if you are hiring anyone under the age of 18 or that's still in high school, that you have things like they have to have a work permit. Even if it's during the summer, they can get it from the county office. And then depending on the age group that they fall into. So I think it's broken up between like 13 and 14-year-olds, and then 15, 16, and then 17 up to 18. And those each have a different set of requirements that obviously get less restrictive the older they are. As a general rule, I tell our clients that want to hire minors, like it's fine, but no power tools, right? They can push a broom, but don't put anything that needs to be plugged in, battery operated, has a saw, anything like that. But when it comes to some of the basic labor positions, or restaurants, or some of the clerical positions as well, they can be a good fit. I think that some of the struggles that employers run into when looking at hiring them, and sorry, Sam, but you're completely out on this category. There's really nothing they can help you with. Is that you run into problems with their schedules, you run into issues with, and they're great, and some of them really want to work hard, but 50% also walk off the job or get distracted by TikTok. And I only say that because I actually had one of them call in late to a job recently and said that they stayed up too late on TikTok and slept past their alarm. So that's real in any age group. It happens. It wasn't my kid, by the way, although it likely could have been. So it's, they come with their own set of problems as well. However, there are a lot of jobs that they can fill, and they are better at taking those entry-level positions. They have never enjoyed the sweet success of unemployment checks, so they're a little bit more apt to take minimum wage, and you just have to be careful about which job and which industry you put them in.
Michelle, is there any flexibility from the school side? Say, for example, Susie gets straight A's. She doesn't have a full schedule. Her afternoons are completely free. She would rather go work and, make some money. Is there any, that of, any allowances there?
In terms of how much they can work?
Yeah. The guidelines of their work permit.
Yeah, it doesn't matter in terms of, it's all just age based. And so, however, it doesn't matter what their grades are or attendance and that type of thing. However, the school has the ability to pull their work permit if they are not meeting attendance requirements, if they're not meeting their grades aren't up to par, but then they're limited. And I want to say they can work up to, I'm not going to quote it. I'm going to get it wrong. It's like up to 10 o'clock on school nights. And then they're a little bit less restricted on the weekends. And then Jennifer brought up a good point that anyone that hires someone under the age of 18 in California, anyone supervising someone under the age of 18 is now required to become a mandatory reporter. And so you have to go through mandatory reporter training. And so that is new, I don't know, as of sometime in 2020, I can't remember back that far because it's been like 15 years. So but there are added requirements on the employer side now as well.
Okay, that's really good to know. Anyone have anything to add to that, or any thoughts?
Yeah, real quick, you we were talking about that just a moment ago, how there's this flood of younger high school age applicants into the job market, and I have been surprisingly satisfied with some of them. And historically, they weren't good candidates, but I think now the ones that are looking are motivated to work, and they've actually done a pretty good job comparatively to maybe some of the ones that have been in the workforce, a longer time. If, one thing with the restaurant industry, I'm kind of going back here a little bit, but I think a lot of those employees or candidates have left the industry during this time. They took this time to find something different. Maybe they wanted to already get out of the industry, but I think there's, yes, some of them are still riding the unemployment. I think there's others that are just left the industry altogether. So there's going to be this shortage, even when the unemployment does drop off, hopefully here soon, that there's still going to be a shortage because they left. So I think if there was a way to segue some of these younger kids, young adults into the industry, to train them, to just give them some of those basic skill sets of employment, I think would help a lot to backfill some of those entry-level positions in the restaurants and service industry.
I agree with you. That is exactly what I'm thinking as well. I think it's going to take, a little bit of time for this to stabilize and the dust to settle. But I think in the meantime, these kids have been through COVID. They're going to be grateful to be out in the world, heading towards, their goals, many of them. So I think that's promising. What do you think about that, Jake? Any thoughts from you?
Well, I think that speaking of like the EDD, I saw Maureen took a call from the EDD. I was just looking at some recent data that we received, and it was comparing June 2020 with June 2021 as far as civilian labor market and pool of people. And in food service, think about June of 2020. That was not a great time in and of itself. But there are, according to the EDD, 500 fewer people in food service in June of 2021 compared to June of 2020. I would want to see what June of 2019 looked like, just as maybe a more solid comparison of what we've lost in that particular, sector or industry. And, you guys are feeling that on the front lines for sure. One of the things that we've been able to track from the beginning of the pandemic in March of 2020 is that unemployment rate in Shasta County has beaten that of the state every single month, which is really an anomaly for us. We're usually trailing behind the state as a whole in Shasta County, but I think a lot of that had to do with maybe COVID case numbers didn't exactly peak to the level that we saw in metro areas, and local decision makers decided to educate and not be really hardcore enforcement in our county. And we were able to help communicate with the business community from the chamber standpoint, how to stay open and operating in a safe fashion, and to do that responsibly. So I think all of that was really, really helpful. But as a result of the lower unemployment, I think that's why we're having discussions like this, because there isn't that abundance of people out there. There's like a pool of 5,000, it seems, from 1 month to the next, that are employable but not currently working. And who are those people? Are they the caliber of employee that you're going to want in your business? And you have all kind of indicated that it's a little bit more of a challenge in that respect in terms of their aptitude and work ethic and all of those things. So we're seeing more of the, I'm going to grab somebody and poach them from my competition, or give them the opportunity to come work for me, versus trying to find someone who's at home seeking work right now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd also add finally that I do agree with you, Aaron, and the others that have mentioned that younger job pool, that there probably is opportunity there, and that's encouraging to those that are in high school and in community college, that just a couple of short years ago, that segment of the market wasn't really even having the opportunity to work because we were seeing people that were, middle-aged with families and so on, occupying all of those low-level entry jobs.
Yeah, that's true. My own son is a good example. He graduated from high school in 2020, but because of COVID and, some other factors, he didn't get his first job until, a couple of months ago. So I think there is even those that are out of high school, maybe they're doing other things. So, as much as we want to solve this entire problem, we are kind of just looking for some small wins. So one idea that we had is to really kind of get our job board at the chamber. Maybe some of you don't know, but we have a job board on our website. And so to begin intentionally reaching out to those, on this call and in the service and retail industry, and really getting a great pool of open positions there, and then directly reaching out, to our local schools, to the community college, and seeing if we can create, a better partnership to kind of take those open positions and direct people right to them. So that's kind of a short-term thought. Obviously, if we can streamline our job fairs, if we can kind of work closer together with some of our, the Smart Center and staffing agencies and all of that, maybe that would help too. So does anyone else have any other ideas or suggestions or thoughts on either what Megan and her office can do, or what we can do, or what we can do together to kind of help solve some of these challenges?
I do. I real quick. I actually had worked for the Smart Center many years ago for about 3 or 4 years, and so I'm kind of familiar with it. But I know they had a youth program back then. I don't know anything. I haven't been in touch with it, but what kind of funding is available there for getting some of these youth that are involved in these youth programs, and maybe having, because I could list off pretty much every, we're real close with a lot of the other restaurants in town, food service in town, and I don't know one of them that isn't looking to hire one, if not a few candidates. If there was a way to set up some sort of just very entry-level training program that gets them maybe their food handler certificate, maybe teaches them some basic, food service type things, some prep work, whatever, that could funnel them into this industry. And I mean, they would have positions right upon exiting that program. It would be kind of a no-brainer.
That's a great idea. And I don't know what, if they have something that's specifically food service related, but I really like that idea because we know there's funding available for different programs to be developed. So we will get in touch with our Smart Center and ask that question specifically and follow up with you on that.
What about the ROP program that has, they have a food services program.
So Enterprise's culinary program, so they own kind of the ROP market on culinary, and they do all come out with their food handlers. I think they even come out with the manager certificate for the culinary program. And Andrew, I can send you, we actually presented to their classes. And I know when they graduate, they're ready to go into that industry. So
yeah. And the Shasta Trinity ROP does the other, not the Shasta Union High School District, but they do, I think it's Central Valley, Anderson, West Valley. They have a similar program. What I was going to say about the youth is that during COVID, the summer of COVID, our dispatcher went out on maternity leave. Of course, we couldn't find anybody who wanted to work. So we made our children come in because that's what, you do in Reading. And so my son, who was a junior at the time, and Wanda's daughter, who was a boomerang from Humboldt State because it went online, they tag teamed the job. And I have to say, we didn't even have to train them. That certain age group has no fear of technology. I walk by and they're creating work orders and doing stuff. And I'm like, "Do you get trained?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's okay. We got it." I was like, okay, that age group coming out has some really unique skill sets in that regard.
That's not surprising. Encouraging to hear. I do know Michelle has to hop off here in a moment. So just want to take a quick second to thank her for being with us. Thanks, Michelle. And Jennifer as well. We appreciate you guys.
I also have a meeting with Angela Cordell from Shasta College on Friday of this week. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about, because we were this close before the pandemic in doing a job fair that focused specifically on high schoolers locally and those at the community college. So now could be the time to rekindle that.
I absolutely agree. And I think, we've seen different job fairs kind of around the county. If we could pull those all together and kind of streamline those in a better way, I think that would be helpful too. So we've just got a few more minutes here. And Alice, did you have something?
I did. I just, it's pretty evident that food service and hospitality has been having a great deal of trouble getting new staff in. And I'm just wondering, with manufacturing, have you had as much trouble hiring new people during COVID as you did prior to that? What is the difference that you're seeing at this point in manufacturing specifically?
Well, I know for us, it has become more challenging for sure. The whole dilemma of having 100 applicants, 50 of which don't seem to really be even interested, and then 30 more that don't show up for interviews type thing. That's kind of new as of last year. Okay. I think the other challenge is definitely what, especially Andrew was alluding to, as far as the cost of hiring, or Michelle was talking about it too, or Maureen actually did. That we've certainly had to increase our pay. So I'm not going to find anyone if I offer what I offered 18 months ago, like nobody. And we've had half of our workforce got raises last year as a direct effect of not wanting to lose them to other manufacturers that have reacted accordingly. So, and that's, like Michelle said, that's not going to go away. And between that and the supply chain crisis and having to pay more for material, we raise our prices like all the time. So I mean, inflation, there's many reasons for it, but one of them, it starts at wages. The more we pay people, the more our product's going to ultimately cost.
Yeah, and if we had some real estate people on here, we'd hear how much more housing is costing too. So. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to also mention the employee retention credit just real quick, that if you all have heard of that, great. If you haven't, I know that Michelle and Heidi at O2 Employment Services, they've been taking a lead role on that. And the basics are a business could qualify for up to $33,000 per employee retained during 2020 and 2021. Legislation changed on the federal level in January. So if you didn't qualify before, you may qualify now. And Michelle can get you more information there, but I'm sure you can find that out through their Facebook page. We can also connect you through the chamber with O2 Employment Services. And I'm going to be presenting on that on a surface level, and let Michelle take the details at Reading West Rotary here in a little while.
Yeah,
but it's a check. It's not just a tax credit. It's actually a check written to the business. And we know of local businesses here and nonprofits that have been very successful in getting some big money.
Yep. And there is another webinar on that topic happening a week from today on Tuesday, hosted by O2 and us and the EDC and another entity that is an expert on it. So go to our Facebook page or the O2 Facebook page to register for that if you want more information on that. And so just in closing, anything else that you would like to touch on, Megan, or talk about in terms of what you're working on, how we can best engage with you, how the community can stay, plugged in and help to get behind some of your efforts?
Well, thank you for today. And it was really great for Alice and my whole team to be able to hear some of your challenges, and gives us ideas moving forward. Obviously right now our district is on fire, and that is basically our top priority as we, moving, but I'm in the final weeks of session. So when session wraps up September 10th, I'm anxious to get out to the district and just give everyone updates on where we are please follow my social media. I don't know if you get our email blast, but we put out email blasts once or twice a week with information where our legislation is, what's happening with fires. So if you aren't signed up for that, please go to my website and get my email blast, because that's a constant stream of communication that we use through my office. And we're always available. Alice is in Reading, based in Reading. So if you need anything, I hope that if anyone that's, reach out to us, we've been able to get back to you in a timely fashion. So thank you so much for today.
Can I ask a quick question here, if I could?
Yes.
Megan, have you heard anything? Is there any talks about, obviously with having the mandatory closure of restaurants last year, the UI rates going up? Is there any talks about some relief on businesses having a reduced increase on those? Because obviously it was not in our ability to control that, whether or not we laid off those individuals, being that it was a mandate.
Well, that's been something that we've talked about multiple times in committees, and as my Republican caucus, with the Senate as well, that wouldn't be passed on to the businesses. And we've been told over and over that the UI will not be raised because of COVID and the pandemic. So that's definitely something that here we will hold them to, because with the fraud and everything that's happened, my concern is we're just going to we're business owners. We do payroll every 2 weeks. So watch, I don't want that to land on our businesses. I don't want the burden of the fraud. And, all of us are concerned about, especially if you're seasonal, that your unemployment, insurance can go up with that as well. So we're definitely on that. If that's something that you see, if you see a spike in your UI or anything that comes to you, please reach out as soon as you do. If you get a notice, you get a letter in the mail, please get a hold of us as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Andrew. Thanks again for being with us, you guys. I think we have a couple ideas that we can get to work on. And I'll follow up with the people that are on this call just about in regards to any job fairs coming up, our job board. Kathy says regional workforce challenges won't go away soon. And unfortunately, I think that's true. I think we just, keep making progress and get those small wins when we can and hang in there. So thanks so much, everybody. As always, we're available. Megan and her team have put their email addresses at the beginning of the chat. So I'll give you a couple minutes to go and grab those if you would like. And thanks everyone for attending. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.